take President Trump at his written word. Democratic Congressman Jason Crow committed seditious behavior punishable by death. The president attacked 6 Democratic Congress members today, including Crow, for a video they produced telling military members they can refuse illegal orders. Trump called it seditious behavior punishable by death. Marshall Zellinger reminds us that this rhetoric is all too familiar here in Colorado.
President Trump calling for the ultimate punishment for 6 members of Congress, including Colorado Democratic Congressman Jason Crow. That punishment? Death. On his social media platform, President Trump wrote, "Seditious behavior punishable by death." He's referencing this video with Crow and 5 other Democratic members of Congress.
The threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home.
Those 6 Democratic Congress members either served in the military or as intelligence officers and had this message for current members who are serving.
You can refuse illegal orders.
In their video, the Congress members allude to National Guard members being sent to U.S. cities like Memphis and Portland.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
The video does not make a specific claim of an illegal order given by a superior or even the president, but it led Trump to post on social media seditious behavior at the highest level, calling them traitors and to lock them up. Then this post, seditious behavior punishable by death, defended by the White House press secretary.
To suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see.
If seditious behavior or treason punishable by death sounds familiar, well, here's why.
That is the definition of treason, and he should be hung by the neck until he's dead.
That's far-right activist Joe Altman calling for the hanging of President Biden.
I want to send the media to the gallows, the mainstream media to the gallows, radical leftists to the gallows, traitors to our nation to the gallows, and they all kind of fit in the same bucket.
We've also heard it from election denier Sean Smith at a 2022 event at a Castle Rock church.
If you involved in election fraud, then you deserve to hang.
And now you're seeing it written by the president, even if his White House spokesperson is trying to play damage control.
Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful.
For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
You'll notice you did not hear from Congressman Jason Crow directly. Now, Crow spent today speaking with national media outlets while his office told us he did not have time to do an on-camera interview with us today. State officials are fighting President Trump's attempt at springing Colorado's most prominent election denier from jail. Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser sent a letter to the governor today asking him to block attempts to move former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters into federal custody. Peters is currently serving a 9-year sentence for helping outsiders infiltrate Mesa County's election systems to search for non-existent proof of election fraud in 2020. President Trump cannot pardon state charges, but has ordered her release, and the Federal Bureau of Prisons has asked the state to hand her over to the feds. Weiser and Mesa County's Republican District Attorney Dan Rubenstein are asking the governor to reject that request. They say Peters, quote, harmed her local community and the citizen she was elected to serve, and that transferring her would undermine the state's legal process. Thanksgiving travel is always fun if you enjoy crowded airports, long security lines, and the anticipation of talking politics with your uncle at the dinner table. We've all been there. Luckily, the government shutdown won't add more stress to that this year. Mark Salinger shows us how Denver's largest airline got back to normal after being forced by the FAA to cancel flights.
There's been a lot of scary headlines over the past couple of weeks with the government shutdown about travel chaos. Shutdown's over now, but now we're moving into one of the busiest travel weeks of the year with Thanksgiving. So we came to the 6th busiest airport in the world to see what it takes to prevent that chaos from happening. If travel were a sport,
yes, Super Bowl week for us.
This room is the most important player in the game for United Airlines.
Our SOC is our quarterback of our operation.
Every single United flight in Denver moves through the Station Operations Center here at the airport.
545 flights per day.
Over 50,000 customers a day.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Colin Watley is the center's director.
No flights move without this room. We are fully engaged with the flight crews, the ramp crews on the ground.
Everything from the catering to the fueling to the customer service boarding to the crews.
Jonna McGrath is the VP of Airport Operations for United here. The people in this room helped manage the cuts to air travel during the tail end of the government shutdown to try and minimize the impact for people flying. Ramping back up feels like the storm has passed.
We do this often after a rainstorm or thunderstorm or a big snowstorm. We have to scale back up the next day. We call those our recovery days, but we've gotten really good at being able to do that, to get people back in the right spots to operate all those flights.
Now the focus down here and up on the ramp tower.
At 3864, Denver ramp, Bravo 8 still confirmed. Taxi Alpha November departure.
Is the holidays.
So we did see a rise of about 15% in bookings for Thanksgiving after they reopened the government, so that's a good thing. So I think people are feeling that confidence that they're going to be able to travel and get where they need to be.
Of all the moving parts in one of the world's busiest airports,
Really, our focus is to minimize the customer disruption.
the people in this room and around the airport say they're past the shutdown and ready for their Super Bowl. So there are still talks of things like air traffic controller shortages around the country, but Denver really hasn't been nearly as impacted by that as other airports. Even during the shutdown, Denver didn't even see close to the number of problems that some East Coast airports saw. For people flying next week, United says it'll be crowded, but should feel like any other Thanksgiving travel week now that the shutdown is over, Angeline.
And, you know, a lot of people were in that position of kind of waiting. Do I fly? Do I not fly? And many of them, it sounds like, actually decided to go ahead and book that flight.
I thought it was super interesting that United said that they saw a 15% spike in people booking tickets for Thanksgiving once the shutdown ended. They said, I don't know if I want to fly during the shutdown. It ends, and all of a sudden people say, okay, I think I'm good. Deep breath. Hopefully everything will go well next week.
That was exactly my mom. She goes, I'm going to drive if it still hasn't ended yet. So
now you can fly.
Exactly. All right. Thanks so much, Mark. A father and 2 children have agreed to return to Colombia after their detention sparked protests in Durango. ICE confirms Fernando Amarillo Solano and his 15 and 12-year-old children chose voluntary departure after spending weeks in a family holding center in Texas. The ACLU says ICE admitted in court they were actually searching for someone else when they picked up the family. They were on their way to school at that time. The detention sparked community outrage and protests. The family had a pending asylum case, and their mother says that her son and daughter complained of inappropriate treatment while in ICE custody. ICE has denied those claims. Their mother, Estela Patiño, spoke to Durango city councilors through an interpreter earlier this week.
We believe in God, and God sees everything. I want justice for my husband and my children and other children in this situation. We came to a country so that we could be protected, and we're not.
Their mother is asking for an investigation into how her children were treated while in detention. Durango police have also called for an independent investigation into whether ICE officers used excessive force against protesters, calling for that family's release as well. The community continues to prepare for the Broncos' potential move to a new stadium at Burnham Yard in 2031. But the site is on the home of a former active rail yard and may need environmental fixes for any spills that contaminated the soil. Here's Spencer Sweiter.
This soil ends up being a problem, you can physically remove it.
This tree and the soil around it will help us explain the environmental tests that will happen where the Broncos plan to build their new stadium.
If it's not being a problem, you can leave it. And that has to be determined.
John Spear is a professor in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department at Colorado School of Mines.
It's stuff that can be in the soil.
Burnham Yard, where the Broncos are going to build, is on a historic rail yard that John says will need to be tested and possibly remediated.
Diesel engines, diesel locomotives, rail cars that spilled or leaked over the time course of the history of these yards. And that sort of stuff's going to be just sitting in there in the subsurface. They call them leaching tests.
John says just like in the mines lab, whoever ends up running the tests will be examining microbes, looking for problematic things that may be in the soil in ways they can either cap it or remove them.
We can look at microbes in soil samples right here, for example. We can light them up and get an idea of microplastics that are present in something.
A big one, John says, is probably just dust and particles that could blow from the site and be inhaled by people. Building stadiums on rail yards is not a new concept. Coors Field was built on one too. Cheaper land that costs less to fix than paying a premium for elsewhere.
Hey everybody, how are y'all doing?
The topic is part of John's class today.
When you think about that's passed through that site in terms of everything that's on the rail cars. Leaks, potentials, they fixed diesel locomotives there for a long time.
As the students talk through how they would make sure the site is safe for future crowds.
So you can imagine there are diesel plumes in the subsurface, and those sort of things have to be reclaimed and remediated before they build a stadium.
So the land that the Broncos will likely buy is owned by CDOT. They bought it in 2021. We made attempts to talk with them for most of today about the previous tests that they've run at the site and how recently they've done them. We know of a test that was paid for in 2022. Spear says he really doesn't see a scenario where anything found is bad enough to derail this deal, and that microbes sitting longer in the soil may actually be a good thing as chemicals can get absorbed and compounds can be broken down, Angeline.
All right, so when we talk about responsibility, though, who actually is responsible for that cleanup and the cost?
So I just heard back from CDOT just a couple of minutes ago. They do not know how much this is going to cost. They'll know more about that as they do the building. However, they say it's going to be the responsibility of the developer who ends up buying this, which in this case would likely be the Broncos.
Right, exactly. Okay, thanks so much, Spencer. Taxpayers will front the cost to hire an attorney for more than a dozen Democratic state lawmakers who are accused of accepting dark money for a weekend retreat in Vail. Today, a legislative committee approved hiring a $250 an hour attorney for 15 Democratic state senators and representatives who are the subject of an ethics investigation. The complaint before the Ethics Board claims that dark money group One Main Street, Colorado, offered to spend $25,000 on a block of hotel rooms for those lawmakers so that they could attend a retreat with lobbyists in Vail. Neither One Main Street nor Democratic legislators have confirmed who paid for the rooms, but the paid-for trip would be well above the $75 limit on gifts that lawmakers are allowed to accept under state law. If the Ethics Commission finds lawmakers violated that law, they could face hefty fines. And if you want an all-expenses paid-for trip to Dubai, consider running for Douglas County Commissioner. The county says Commissioner George Teal just got back from an official trip to the Dubai Air Show. Commissioner Teal, a Republican, has been excused from county meetings this week. He just returned from a 5-day trip to that air show, which is an international expo for aerospace companies. A county spokesperson told us Teal and the CEO of the county's Economic Development Corporation are on the trip to, quote, recruit new business investment and close supply chain gaps for local aerospace companies like Lockheed Martin. Douglas County taxpayers cover the airfare and the hotel costs to the tune of $18,000. But don't worry, the county says the Economic Development Corporation sprung for the tickets. A 5-day pass is going for about $300 online. Teal is not the only metro area official to take taxpayer-funded trip overseas. Former Denver Mayor Michael Hancock went on a string of economic development trips at the end of his term in 2022 to Egypt, Ethiopia, Ireland, the United Kingdom, Turkey, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. Those trips cost taxpayers more than $130,000. State regulators take a historic step towards securing some key water rights on the Colorado River.
Marcia didn't know anything except firm, fair law enforcement.
And Denver's Police Museum honors a trailblazing officer who shattered the department's glass ceiling. That's all next. State water regulators have advanced a $100 million deal to purchase some of the oldest water rights on the Colorado River. The goal is to keep more water levels up in both streams and the river itself. Yesterday, the Colorado Water Conservation Board accepted the Shoshone water rights into the state's in-stream flow program, which aims to keep a certain amount of water in the river each year in order to protect the environment. Xcel currently owns the water rights tied to the Shoshone power plant near Glenwood Springs. They're some of the oldest rights on the river, which means they get first priority in times of drought. A broad coalition on the western slope is trying to buy the rights from Xcel for $99 million to protect them from a future buyer. This is a big step forward, but it's not a final decision. A water court will weigh in on the proposal, and that will come up in the future. All right, speaking about the weather, I've been wanting to talk with you about this, Chris, because we have a little bet. We know about it. Other people don't know about it. I think I'm going to win. You think you're going to win. Basically, it's are we going to have shovelable snow by the end of November? I say we're not.
I say we are. I still say we are. It looks, Angeline, promising middle to end part of next week that we're going to turn notably colder. My only question is, will it happen in time for the end of the month? But hey, if you want the cold weather, the kind of generally snowier weather, this general trend that we're in it's generally good news. Now, we're not going to get snow in Denver tonight, but we are seeing snow in the mountains. Hey, we'll take it 3 to 10 inches of snow. Most of that will be above 11,000 feet through tonight. I was just looking at some of the webcams. If you're driving to or from the mountains, it is slick atop Vail Pass, as well as especially Kenosha, Hoosier, and Monarch Passes. Those are the slickest spots, and also Levita Pass here on Highway 160. Those will be the slickest spots right now. In Denver, I know it is dry right now. Little rain for us on the Palmer Divide, but this rain trying to push its way west and into the I-25 corridor. Most of that rain off to the east. Hey, this is beneficial water. We've been bone dry for the last really 6 weeks across northeast Colorado. We'll take whatever we can get. Here in the mountains, we are seeing some light snow. Not talking about much. 1 to 3, 2 to 4 inches of snow, generally speaking, for us along and north of those pass levels. Otherwise, we head over the next few hours. That snow will continue. It will be slick for us in the mountains. I-70, 285, as well as down through Highway 160 will all be kind of slick. Same for us here on Highway 50 as well, and Highway 24 in the mountains. And then those rain showers for us in Denver through tonight into early tomorrow morning. In Denver, our main rainfall will be 6 p.m. tonight till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Not a ton of rain, but we'll take it. We are at 24 consecutive days without measurable precipitation for us in Denver. Just one day in our last 40 with rain, but we'll take a little rain, and then we'll get another chance for rain Sunday, and then perhaps colder and maybe rain, maybe snow next week.
When we come back, Denver police say farewell to a trailblazing member of the squad. We'll introduce you to the department's first female patrol officer next. For so long, the policeman's vow was just for men. Then here in Denver came one woman, the first female patrol officer here for DPD. Photojournalist Foster Gaines was there as family and friends remembered who she was and what she did for our community.
All right, I want to welcome everyone here.
Forward.
We are here to honor my aunt. And she deserved to be honored. Marcia Cadu. She would be embarrassed by this. She didn't like all the pomp and circumstance and all the attention. And I love hearing the stories about everyone speaking about how great she was.
A woman's heart lies behind a badge. For years, worn only by men. She's pledged the policeman's vow to protect, to serve, and defend.
Marcia was the first modern police woman that was sworn in.
And I became a Denver police officer in 1970. There weren't too many of us ladies back then, so she kind of took me under her wing.
Marcia didn't know anything except firm, fair law enforcement and a kind heart to help whoever needed it. Because Marcia eclipsed, I don't care who you'd stand up next to her, male, female, Marcia eclipsed them. She was a fabulous officer.
We were all very incredibly proud of her. I'm proud to have her name. I'm proud to share her name. Even in her 80s, I would not want to run into her in a dark alley on the wrong side of the law because I know she'd take you down. My aunt was a badass. I don't know if I can say that on TV, but I'm gonna say it anyway because she was.
Wow, thank you to her and all the women who came before. We'll be back with your feedback next. All right, we got this from Steve from Hudson. OMG, Kyle, I love what you've done with your new look. Wow, the way you delivered the news tonight was newsy and understandable. Well, you know what? What can I say? We all could do with a little makeover every now and again. So yeah, like to hear it. Thank you so much for watching and joining us here while Kyle was out.